For thousands of years, the galaxy had lived under a silent fear. The legends spoke of a weapon so powerful that it could erase planets, silence suns, and tear space itself apart. They called it the Extinction Core. No one had seen it, but everyone believed it existed, somewhere, hidden, waiting for the one who could awaken it. The Galactic Council had banned even the mention of its name. Yet deep inside the Orion sector, an ancient signal appeared, weak, broken, but carrying a familiar pattern. It came from an old star system long abandoned by the great empires. The name of that system was whispered across the stars like a curse, Sol. The first to detect it was the Varn Dominion. Their scanners picked up an energy pulse that matched 97% of the signature described in ancient records. Commanders and scientists gathered in silence. "It cannot be," one of them muttered. But the readings didn't lie. The pulse came from a small, blue planet orbiting a yellow star. The coordinates matched one world exactly, Earth. Across the galaxy, alarms triggered in every major empire. Fleets began to move. The word spread fast, the weapon has been found. On the homeworld of the Rix Empire, Admiral Kor stood before the holographic map of the galaxy, his claws twitching nervously. "If humans have the core," he said, "then the balance of power is broken." No one argued. Humanity had always been mysterious. They had joined the galactic community late, but their technology developed fast, too fast. Now, the thought of them holding the galaxy's deadliest weapon was terrifying. Orders were sent. Find the source. Retrieve it. At any cost. In the council chambers of Ithra, ambassadors of 20 races gathered. The chamber's air was thick with tension. Some demanded immediate destruction of Earth. Others wanted to negotiate. But no one trusted each other. Old rivalries rose again. Words turned into threats, and threats turned into silent plans for war. The humans, they agreed, could not know what they held, or chaos would follow. Meanwhile, millions of light-years away, the humans themselves lived quietly, unaware of the storm building above them. On Earth, cities shone under calm night skies. Families slept peacefully. Children played. No one looked at the stars with fear. No one knew that hundreds of alien eyes were already watching. In an orbital research station near Mars, Dr. Lena Hayes was running a routine test when she noticed something strange. A sudden spike in background radiation. It was weak but consistent, almost like a heartbeat. She frowned and checked the readings twice. It wasn't coming from the station. It was coming from Earth. She tried to report it, but before she could, the signal vanished. She dismissed it as interference. But the data had already been recorded and transmitted across the galactic network. Out in the dark void beyond Pluto, a cloaked alien probe drifted silently. Its scanners fixed on Earth, tracking the same pulse. Inside the control room of the Varn Dominion's flagship, an officer spoke, his voice trembling. "We've confirmed it, Admiral. The energy is identical to the core's signature. It's inside their atmosphere." Admiral Kor stared at the hologram. A tiny blue dot floated in the center of the star map. "Then it's true," he whispered. "After all this time, it was on Earth." But what confused them most was the nature of the signal. It wasn't constant, nor was it being transmitted by any known device. It flickered on and off, almost lazily, as if whatever caused it wasn't even trying. "It's like," the science officer hesitated, "it's like the source is not aware it's sending anything at all." That thought sent shivers through the room. A weapon that powerful, active without its user even knowing? Terrifying. The Council sent secret orders to all major factions. Do not approach Earth openly. If humans discovered they were being watched, they might react unpredictably. Instead, stealth ships, invisible to radar, were dispatched from every corner of the galaxy. Each carried elite teams, spies, assassins and scientists, racing to find the weapon first. Whoever claimed it would rule the stars. Back on Earth, in a quiet neighborhood outside London, a small house stood at the edge of a forest. It belonged to a retired engineer named Arthur Reeves. His life was simple: morning tea, old radio shows, and the same routine every day. That evening, as he walked to his front door, he stopped for a moment and looked at the floor. The door wasn't closing properly again. He sighed and nudged the object that kept it steady. A small, metallic wedge, dull gray with strange lines carved across it, hummed faintly as it pressed into the floor. Arthur frowned. "Still glowing, huh?" he muttered, shaking his head. "Maybe I should get rid of you one day." He chuckled, turned off the light, and went to bed. In orbit above Earth, one of the alien stealth ships locked onto his house. The computer confirmed the reading: Extinction core energy signature, 100% match. The crew exchanged fearful looks. "It's under a door," one whispered. "That can't be right." Yet the readings didn't lie. The most dangerous weapon in the known universe was sitting in a human's home, being used as a doorstop. The captain hesitated. "Prepare a retrieval drone," he ordered. "No direct contact. Get it and leave." The drone detached and descended into the atmosphere, moving silently through the clouds, invisible to radar. It passed over the ocean, across cities, and finally reached the small neighborhood. It slipped through Arthur's open window, gliding toward the object glowing faintly under the door. Its scanners whirred softly, analyzing the strange metal. "Composition unknown," the drone reported. "Energy output rising." Before it could transmit another word, a bright flash filled the room. The drone's camera went black. In orbit, the ship's monitors went static. "Connection lost," an officer said. The captain leaned forward. "What happened?" No answer. Then, for a single second, the entire ship trembled. The stars outside flickered, on, off, on again, as if reality itself had skipped a heartbeat. Then everything returned to normal. On Earth, Arthur woke up suddenly, hearing a faint sound from downstairs. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the clock. Midnight. "Probably the wind," he mumbled. But as he walked to the door, the floor beneath his feet vibrated slightly. The small metal object under the door glowed brighter, just for a moment, then went silent again. Arthur yawned and went back to bed, unaware that across the galaxy, 1,000 sensors had just recorded the same pulse. In the dark halls of the Galactic Council, the message spread quickly: "The weapon is active." And from that moment on, the stars were no longer silent. Across the galaxy, panic spread like fire through dry grass. The Council's secret message, "The weapon is active," was enough to shake entire civilizations. Empires that had not spoken in centuries began sending encrypted transmissions. Fleets were recalled from borders. Merchants stopped traveling through human space. The galaxy was holding its breath. On 1,000 worlds, scientists and generals gathered around holographic projections of Earth. It was just one small planet, green and blue, harmless to the eye. But somewhere on its surface lay the most powerful weapon ever created. No one knew how humanity got it, and worse, no one knew if the humans even understood what they were holding. The Rix Empire was the first to move. Admiral Kor's flagship, Vigilance of Dawn, remained cloaked in the outer edge of the solar system. From his command bridge, he watched Earth's image on a giant screen, zoomed in so far that even clouds moved in real time. "We need to locate it precisely," Kor said, his voice cold and calm. "Our probes cannot survive near it, but perhaps there's another way." His science officer stepped forward. "We can trace the residual distortion from the drone's last signal. It came from a suburban region on the planet's western continent. Population density low. Likely civilian area." Kor narrowed his eyes. A weapon of extinction hidden among civilians. Typical humans. He didn't know how right, and how wrong, he was. In the shadow of Neptune, another ship floated silently, a spy vessel from the Itheri Collective. The Itheri were not conquerors, they were collectors of knowledge. They wanted the weapon not for war, but for study. "The humans are unpredictable," said Chief Scholar then. "If they understand the power of this device, they may use it to threaten the entire council." His assistant replied softly, "And if they don't understand it, they might destroy themselves, and all of us, with it." Then sighed. Exactly. That's why we must retrieve it first. Their ship began to descend toward Earth's atmosphere, invisible and silent, their scanners searching for any energy fluctuations. Every race wanted the same thing. But not a single one dared make contact. Humanity's history was violent. They had fought their own kind for centuries, built weapons that terrified even themselves, and somehow survived. No one wanted to be the first to trigger their instinct for war. On Earth, Arthur Reeves had no idea that half the galaxy was looking at his house. His life continued as usual. That morning he made coffee, read the newspaper, and fixed a broken radio in his garage. He never noticed the tiny shimmer of light outside his window, the invisible drone floating nearby, scanning everything. The drone's sensors confirmed it again. Energy signature consistent with the Extinction core, origin point, Arthur's home. Inside the alien control ship orbiting Earth, the crew grew restless. How can a primitive man hold such power and live so casually? One asked. Another replied, perhaps he doesn't know. Perhaps it's dormant. The captain stared at the screen. Or perhaps it's waiting. Meanwhile, on the moon, deep beneath a secret human base, alarms had begun to flash. The UN's defense network, built to monitor alien activity, had detected several unidentified crafts near orbit. Major Rena Alvarez, commander of the Lunar Watchpost, leaned over her console. Stealth ships, she whispered. Multiple signatures. They're not ours. Her second-in-command frowned. Any contact? No, she said. But they're watching Earth. For the first time in decades, the humans activated the old global defense grid, hidden under the oceans and polar ice. Drones, satellites, and surveillance AIs went online silently. Earth was awake. Back in the quiet neighborhood, Arthur noticed something strange. His power kept flickering. The lights blinked every few minutes, and his old radio buzzed with static even when turned off. He looked at the door and sighed. The strange metallic wedge glowed faintly again. You again, he muttered. I should just throw you away. He reached down to move it, but the moment his hand touched it, a soft vibration passed through the floor. The object pulsed once with light, then went dark. Arthur frowned, shrugged, and placed it back. He didn't see the invisible drone outside shaking violently before disintegrating mid-air. In orbit, the alien crew monitoring him panicked. Drone destroyed, one shouted. By what? Unknown force. No explosion, no weapon fire, just gone. The captain's mandibles clicked nervously. The weapon reacted, he said. It knows when it's being watched. They cut all active scans immediately, terrified that the same thing might happen to their ship. But it was too late. Deep within the ship's engine core, systems began to fail one by one. The lights flickered. What's happening? An officer yelled. It's not damage, replied another. It's interference. Like something is rewriting our power output. They were forced to retreat into deep space before the effect could spread. At the same time, far from the battlefield, the Galactic Council met again. The atmosphere was worse than before. Holograms of each leader flickered above the table, voices overlapping in panic. The humans must surrender the weapon, shouted the Varn representative. You think they even know they have it? The Ithari scholar snapped back. Ignorance does not make them innocent, growled another. The council chairwoman, a calm, blue-skinned being named Arkson, raised her hand. Silence, she commanded. The chamber fell quiet. We will not act in haste. But one thing is certain, if that weapon activates fully, every world will burn. We cannot allow it. She turned to her aide. Begin Operation Eclipse. Covert insertion. Minimal interference. Retrieve the object before humanity understands what it is. And so, in the following days, dozens of invisible ships entered Earth's orbit. They disguised themselves as meteors, satellites, even debris. At night, faint shadows passed over cities, never seen, never recorded. The hunt for the weapon had begun. But the closer they came, the stranger things became. Equipment failed. Navigation systems spun wild. Some ships reported hearing whispers through the comms, soft human voices repeating a single word, "Not yet." In his home, Arthur sat in his armchair, sipping tea and reading. The small metal object sat quietly under the door, faintly humming. Outside, the stars twinkled as usual, but something about them seemed different. As Arthur leaned back, he felt a strange warmth from the floor, as if the object was breathing. He didn't notice the small flash of light outside the window, a probe disintegrating in silence. Above him, thousands of kilometers away, alien commanders stared in disbelief at their sensors. Every attempt to scan the weapon ended in failure. Every signal they sent was erased, as if space itself rejected it. One officer whispered, "It's protecting itself, and the human." The captain nodded grimly. "No," he said, eyes locked on the blue planet below. "It's not protecting him. He's protecting it." By the end of the week, half the galaxy was orbiting Earth, hidden, watching, waiting. No one dared to make the first move. No one wanted to risk waking the weapon again. But the universe's silence would not last long. Because deep inside that small suburban house, the glowing object flickered once more, brighter than before, and for the briefest moment, every scanner in orbit detected the same impossible reading. Power level, rising. Arthur Reeves had lived most of his life in quiet routines. He woke up early, made his tea, fed his cat, and listened to old music from a time when the world was simpler. He had once been an engineer, but after his retirement, he found peace in silence. His small house at the edge of the forest was far from the noise of the cities. He liked it that way. But lately, the silence had started to feel different. There were nights when he could swear he heard something hum in the walls, soft, rhythmic, almost alive. It wasn't his refrigerator, or the lights, or any of the old machines in the house. The sound came from near the door. And the strange metallic wedge that kept his door open glowed every night a little brighter. Arthur had always told himself it was just some leftover charge from space debris. After all, he had found the thing years ago near the crash site of a small satellite. The authorities said it was junk from an old probe. He had taken it home because it was heavy, smooth, and oddly beautiful. He used it to stop his door from swinging in the wind. That was all it had ever been. Until now. While Arthur went about his life, far above him, the galaxy was watching. The alien fleets orbiting Earth were restless. Every empire had sent its best. Some wanted to steal the weapon quietly, others wanted to destroy it before it awakened. The Ithari Collective continued sending stealth probes, hoping one would finally reach the object without vanishing. The Varn Dominion's Admiral Corps had grown impatient. "We have wasted too much time," he said coldly. "Every minute we wait, the humans grow more curious. If that weapon activates under their control, it will be too late." His science officer hesitated. "Sir, with respect, it already reacts to contact. If we send another drone, we risk destruction." Corps' eyes gleamed. "Then send something living." The officer froze. "A soldier?" "No," Corps replied. "A volunteer. A human." Moments later, a transmission was sent to an underground group of alien mercenaries operating on Earth. They were experts in infiltration, shapeshifters who could mimic human forms. Their mission was simple: enter the human's home, retrieve the weapon, and bring it to orbit. They didn't know who Arthur was, and they didn't care. All they knew was that under his door rested the galaxy's most dangerous artifact. That night, Arthur couldn't sleep. The humming had grown louder. He turned on the light, rubbing his temples. "What the hell is wrong with you today?" he muttered, staring at the glowing wedge. For a second, he thought it pulsed in response. He stepped closer, crouching. The lines carved across its surface were shifting slowly, like liquid metal forming new patterns. Arthur blinked, thinking it was a trick of the light. He reached out a trembling hand, but before he could touch it, there was a sudden creak outside. He froze. Someone was on his porch. From the shadows, a figure moved toward his door. It looked human, but its steps were too smooth, too deliberate. Arthur, being cautious, grabbed his old flashlight and waited. The door opened slightly, but before the intruder could take another step, a flash of light erupted from the metallic object. It wasn't an explosion, just a burst of pure, white light that filled the room like a wave. Arthur covered his eyes and stumbled back. When the light faded, the door stood open, but the figure was gone. Only a thin layer of ash covered the floor. Arthur's heart raced. He stared at the empty doorway, then at the object, which now glowed gently as if nothing had happened. "What in God's name are you?" he whispered. In orbit, alarms blared across the Varn Dominion ship. "We've lost the infiltration team," an officer shouted. No explosion, no distress signal. Just gone. Admiral Kor clenched his fists. "So, the weapon defends itself." He turned toward the hologram of Earth, his jaw tight. "Then the human is either very lucky, or very dangerous." Back on Earth, Arthur sat at his table, trying to calm down. His hands were shaking. He poured himself tea but spilled half of it. "Maybe I'm losing my mind," he muttered. "Maybe it was just lightning or static discharge." But deep down, he knew better. The house felt different now. The air itself seemed to vibrate with energy. He could hear faint whispers, like a voice trying to form words just beyond understanding. The more he listened, the clearer it became. "Not ready," the voice said softly. Arthur froze. "Who said that?" Silence. He stood up quickly, heart pounding, and looked around the empty room. The only thing that moved was the faintly glowing wedge of metal under his door. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Council had received new data. The energy readings were no longer random, they were pulsing rhythmically, matching what seemed to be a heartbeat. The chairwoman frowned as she stared at the chart. "Is the weapon alive?" she asked. The scientist beside her swallowed hard. "We don't think it's alive, ma'am. But it's responding to something, or someone." "A signal?" "No," the scientist replied. "A mind." Arthur spent the next day trying to act normal. He went to the market, talked to his neighbors, even joked with the mailman. But he couldn't stop thinking about the glowing object. When he came home that evening, he decided to run a small experiment. He brought out his old engineering tools, a scanner, and a magnetometer. If it was really just a strange piece of metal, it would react to one of them. But none of his tools worked. The moment he got close, they shut down completely. His lights flickered again, and his computer crashed. Arthur sighed, rubbing his head. "You're really not normal, are you?" he said quietly. Then it happened again. The humming returned, louder this time, and the object began to float, just a few inches off the ground. Arthur stumbled back, eyes wide, as the glowing lines rearranged themselves into a symbol he didn't recognize. A bright light filled the room, and for a moment, the world around him seemed to slow. Outside, in the sky, stars flickered again, visible even in daylight. Across the galaxy, every scanner, every monitor, every radar caught the same event. A massive, localized space-time distortion originating from one human home. When the light faded, Arthur found himself sitting on the floor, trembling. The object had fallen still again, resting quietly as if nothing had happened. He breathed heavily, staring at it. "What are you?" he whispered again, his voice shaking. The glowing surface flickered once, and for the first time, the object replied in a soft, mechanical tone that made his blood run cold. "Human presence detected. Authorization confirmed." Far away, aboard Admiral Kor's ship, the readings spiked off the charts. "It responded to him," the officer said. "It only reacts to the human." Kor stared at the data, realizing the terrifying truth. "It's not the weapon that belongs to him," he murmured. "He belongs to it." When the readings came through, every corner of the galaxy felt the tremor. The pulse that had come from Earth wasn't a natural event. It had a pattern, controlled, deliberate, and impossibly powerful. Across hundreds of systems, starships reported flickering lights, brief sensor blindness, and strange distortions in spacetime. Even the ancient communication relays of the council faltered for 2 full seconds. In those 2 seconds, an entire galaxy held its breath. And then chaos began. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, the meeting was already spiraling out of control. Representatives from over 50 species shouted over one another, their holograms flickering in a storm of panic. "It's the core!" yelled the Varn Dominion's envoy. "The humans have activated it." "Impossible," countered the Ithri scholar, his voice sharp and cold. "They don't even know what it is. It must have responded to a random environmental factor." A deep growl echoed through the chamber as the Rix Empire's general slammed a clawed hand against the table. "You don't understand. That weapon doesn't activate by accident. It needs intent. The human used it." Silence fell. Every ambassador turned toward the holographic projection floating above the table, a small, blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness. "Earth. If it truly has awakened," said Chairwoman Arkson finally, "then none of us are safe." Across the room, generals whispered among themselves. Plans of invasion, containment, or annihilation were all being considered. A low-ranking aide tried to speak up. "Ma'am, if we attack them, we risk activating it again. The energy could destroy not only their planet but nearby systems as well." Arkson's eyes narrowed. "And if we do nothing, the humans might learn to control it." The council chamber filled with uneasy murmurs. No one wanted to admit it, but there was one truth none of them could ignore: humans had always been unpredictable. They adapted to danger faster than any known species. Give them a weapon like that, and within a generation, they'd become unstoppable. Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, Admiral Kor's fleet remained cloaked, but even inside the ship, fear spread among the crew. Every sensor reading showed the same result: the weapon had responded only to a human touch. Kor paced the deck slowly. "It knows them," he said. "It recognizes them." His science officer nodded nervously. "Sir, it even ignored our probes and drones. But when the human touched it, the energy spike spread across 9 sectors." Kor stopped. "How much damage was recorded?" "None, sir," the officer admitted. "No physical destruction. Just interference. As if the weapon was testing the galaxy's reaction." That made Kor uneasy. "Testing?" "Yes, sir. Like it was watching." Back on Earth, Arthur Reeves was trying, and failing, to convince himself that everything was fine. He hadn't slept in almost 2 days. His mind was full of that metallic voice he had heard, the calm, almost human tone that said, "Human presence detected. Authorization confirmed." He kept replaying those words in his head. It didn't make sense. Authorization for what? He sat in his kitchen, staring at the object still sitting under his door. The morning light reflected off its smooth surface, making it shimmer with soft blue hues. "You're not supposed to exist," he whispered. "You're not supposed to talk." He reached for it again, but this time the object stayed cold, silent. Nothing happened. Arthur sighed, rubbed his temples and muttered, "I need help." Hundreds of miles away, inside a secret human base buried under the Pacific Ocean, alarms were already active. The Global Defense Network had detected multiple unidentified cloaked ships hovering near the moon's orbit. Major Rena Alvarez stared at the readings on her screen. "There are at least 12 different alien signatures," she said. "And they're not leaving." Her superior officer frowned. "Do they know we've seen them?" "Unlikely," Rena replied. "But if they're here for what we think they're here for," her voice trailed off. Everyone in that room knew what she meant. The strange object found by Arthur Reeves had become the most valuable and dangerous item on Earth, and now, every major alien faction wanted it. The base commander gave a single order: "Send the Ravens." Within minutes, a squadron of stealth drones launched from the ocean, vanishing into the upper atmosphere, their mission simple: observe and protect. Humanity might not know what the object truly was, but one thing was certain: they weren't giving it up easily. In the council chamber, the debate reached its peak. The Ricks demanded immediate invasion. The Itheri insisted on negotiation. The Varn Dominion proposed sending an energy disruptor to disable the weapon remotely. You think a disruptor can affect it? Arkson asked sharply. That device survived the collapse of the First Empire. It withstood the destruction of 3 star clusters. Do you honestly believe our toys will make a difference? Then what do you propose? One ambassador shouted. Arkson stood. Her voice was cold, calm, and final. We contact the humans. The room erupted in outrage. Impossible. Suicidal. They'll use the weapon. Arkson raised her hand, and the noise died instantly. We have no choice, she said. If we don't act, others will. And if one ship fires even a single shot near Earth, that thing might decide to destroy us all. That decision changed everything. The Council prepared a diplomatic probe, an automated envoy designed to send a peaceful message. It would enter Earth's orbit, transmit a warning, and request that the humans surrender whatever artifact they possessed. But as the probe entered Earth's atmosphere, it vanished. No explosion. No debris. One moment it was there, the next gone. The Council's command room went silent. Technicians tried to recover the last transmission. All they found was static, until one faint voice cut through. Unauthorized access denied. Human authority recognized. The technicians froze. The message had been clear. The weapon wasn't rejecting alien contact. It was protecting its owner. In his small house, Arthur stood by the window, watching a storm roll in. Lightning flashed in the distance, thunder shaking the ground. He looked down at the object again. For a brief moment, he thought he saw something reflected in its surface. Planets, stars, fleets of ships. Then the light faded. He rubbed his eyes, shaken. I'm going crazy, he muttered. But somewhere deep inside, a strange calm replaced his fear. A voice echoed faintly in his head again. Do not fear. You are the chosen key. He didn't know what it meant, but those words filled him with unease and curiosity at once. Across the galaxy, the Council declared an emergency lockdown. All operations near Earth were to be suspended until further notice. But not everyone listened. In the dark reaches of space, secret fleets began to move again, hungry for power. Admiral Kor stood before the viewport of his ship, watching the stars flicker faintly. The Council hesitates, he said softly. We will not. His fleet began charging their weapons. In the silence of deep space, no one noticed the faint hum that echoed across the void, the same frequency that had once come from under Arthur Reeves's door. The weapon had heard them coming. Arthur Reeves didn't sleep that night. The storm outside had passed, but something else had taken root inside him, an awareness, a quiet hum at the edge of his thoughts that wouldn't stop. Every time he looked at the metallic object, it seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. He tried locking it in a drawer, wrapping it in blankets, even leaving it outside, but no matter what he did, it always seemed to call to him. It wasn't just a machine, it was aware, and it knew him. Across the Pacific, in the underground base, Major Rena Alvarez stared at the screen that showed Arthur's house. The object's energy readings had stabilized again, but the frequency was spreading. It wasn't broadcasting outward, it was scanning inward, through the planet itself, as if mapping Earth from the inside out. It's searching for something, Rena said quietly. Or someone. Her commander frowned. Are we sure he isn't controlling it? No, sir. But it's responding to him specifically. Every time his heart rate changes, the energy field adjusts. It's like it's tuned to him. The commander turned toward her. Then he's the key. Meanwhile, in orbit, Admiral Kor's fleet began their first move. Cloaked destroyers positioned themselves near the moon's shadow, while scouts sent probes into low orbit. None of them lasted more than a few seconds before vanishing. No explosion, no trace, just gone. Frustrated, Kor clenched his jaw. It's testing us again, he said. The humans are using the weapon defensively. His science officer shook his head. Sir, our readings confirm no human technology has been deployed. It's acting on its own. Core froze. That was worse. Much worse. Because it meant the humans didn't need to understand it for it to obey them. It was loyal to them by design. In the council chamber, Chairwoman Arkson received the report with a heavy heart. We've confirmed the probe destruction, her aide said. The energy field reappeared exactly as before. Same signature. Then the weapon is active, Arkson murmured. And it's guarding them. She turned toward the holographic map showing Earth. Prepare the observation fleets. No more interference until we understand what we're dealing with. Back on Earth, Arthur finally gave up trying to ignore the object. He sat at the kitchen table, his laptop open, searching for anything similar online. Conspiracy sites, scientific papers, government leaks, nothing even close. You're just a fancy rock, he said aloud. A glowing, dangerous rock that talks. He leaned closer, staring at the faint blue light that shimmered beneath the surface. Then the voice returned, calm and clear. Primary access confirmed. Identification, human. Arthur's pulse jumped. What do you want from me? He whispered. Clarification, not what. Who? The architect must awaken. The architect. Arthur repeated, confused. Who's that? But before he could ask more, the object pulsed sharply, and a surge of energy rippled through the room. Lights flickered, glass shattered, and every device within 100 meters rebooted at once. Arthur stumbled back in shock. The object floated an inch above the floor, spinning slowly, before settling back down as if nothing had happened. Moments later, alarms screamed across the Pacific base. Massive energy spike. Rena shouted. Centered on the civilian residence, same coordinates. The commander rushed to her console. Casualties? None. But we lost satellite feed for 10 seconds. 10 seconds? That's impossible. Rena rewound the data, and what she saw froze her blood. During those 10 seconds, Earth's defense satellites had gone offline. Not destroyed, not jammed, but completely disconnected from all human systems. When they came back, their orientation had shifted. Now they were aimed outward, toward space. It just reprogrammed our entire defense grid, she whispered. Who did? The commander demanded. The weapon. Or him? Rena hesitated. Maybe both. Admiral Kor's ships detected the change instantly. Hundreds of human defense satellites had activated simultaneously, locking onto his fleet's position with pinpoint accuracy. They can't see us, his tactical officer yelled. We're cloaked. Not anymore, Kor growled. That thing sees everything. He ordered an emergency retreat, but before the fleet could disengage, a beam of pure light shot from Earth's upper atmosphere. It didn't explode or destroy, it simply passed through the void like a searchlight, brushing against each ship. Every system that touched the beam shut down instantly, leaving Kor's fleet dead in space. Power loss across all decks, a crewman shouted. We're adrift. Kor gritted his teeth, fury and fear mixing in his chest. They haven't fired on us, he said quietly. They're warning us. The council received the data hours later. The humans hadn't attacked, they had merely revealed that they could. Arkson stared at the report in disbelief. Do you realize what this means? She asked. They're not only capable of controlling the weapon, they're integrating it into their own systems. Then they understand it, one ambassador asked nervously. Arkson shook her head. No. That's what makes it terrifying. They don't understand it. But it understands them. Arthur stood outside his house, watching the sky. He could feel it now, a faint vibration under his skin, as though he was part of something much larger. The object sat quietly at his feet, no longer glowing, as if resting. You changed something, didn't you? He whispered. The voice came again, gentle but firm. Defensive perimeter activated. Threats identified. Human preservation priority 1. Arthur's heart pounded. You're protecting us. Correction. Protecting the core. Humanity is the vessel. The core, he said, more confused than ever. Explain. But the object went silent again. In the depths of the ocean base, Major Rena and her commander watched a live feed of the same spot. The satellites, now self-coordinating, were building a digital perimeter around the planet. No one on Earth had programmed them to do it. It's rewriting our defense code, Rena said. In real time. Her commander looked grim. At this rate, Earth's entire network will be under its control within 24 hours. Should we shut it down? Rena asked. How? He replied bitterly. It's not even ours anymore. Meanwhile, deep in space, Admiral Kor's crippled ships drifted helplessly as emergency power flickered back online. Send a message to the Council, Kor ordered. Tell them the weapon has chosen sides, and it's not ours. His aide hesitated. Sir, what if it sees the message? Kor looked out at the distant blue planet. Then maybe it'll know we understand what we're up against. Arthur sat back inside his house, head spinning, realizing that nothing about his life would ever be normal again. Whatever this thing was, it had linked itself to him, and somehow, through him to all of humanity. The door creaked open as the night wind blew in, and for the first time, he wasn't afraid. The object pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Connection complete, the voice whispered. The awakening begins. Arthur stared into the soft light, unaware that far beyond the stars, countless alien fleets were preparing for war, not against each other this time, but against the one species that had unknowingly become the master of extinction itself. The world woke up to strange skies. Satellites shifted in orbit, beams of light moved silently across the clouds, and communication signals briefly turned to static before clearing again. Governments across the globe tried to calm the public, calling it a solar interference event, but deep inside, every defense command center knew the truth. Something had taken over Earth systems. And it wasn't human. In the underground base beneath the Pacific, Major Rena Alvarez stood before the massive holographic map showing Earth surrounded by hundreds of glowing lines. Each line represented a satellite or defense platform, and now, all of them were connected to a single unknown source. The object isn't just reprogramming, Rena said quietly. It's building something. Her commander frowned. Building what? A network, she replied. A planetary shield, or worse, a signal array. He didn't like either option. If it was a shield, maybe Earth was being protected. If it was a signal array, something, or someone, was about to receive a message. Far away, in the small town of Aurora Hills, Arthur Reeves woke up to the faint hum that had become his constant companion. The object sat quietly on his table, pulsing softly like a living thing. He could feel it now, even when he wasn't touching it, a warmth in his chest, like it was part of him. You're not supposed to be here, he said, rubbing his tired eyes. You're supposed to be a myth. The voice responded instantly, calm and clear. Myth is memory. Memory is design. Design is survival. Arthur frowned. What does that even mean? But before he could ask again, the lights flickered, and every screen in his house turned on by itself. His phone, TV, laptop, all showing the same symbol, a perfect silver circle surrounded by moving geometric lines. The object pulsed once more. Awakening protocol initiated. Stand by. Arthur froze. Awakening what? In orbit, Admiral Kor's crippled fleet had barely regained partial power when sensors detected the surge. There it is again, said his science officer. The same frequency, but stronger. Kor watched the readings carefully. It's not an attack, he muttered. It's broadcasting. To who? Everyone. Moments later, the same symbol appeared across hundreds of alien communication networks. Civilizations from one end of the galaxy to the other received the signal, and panic followed. The Ithari called it a declaration of control. The Rix Empire declared a full mobilization. Even the quiet, reclusive Ocean Syndicate came out of hiding, their fleets heading toward the Sol system. The message wasn't in any known language, yet every translation system rendered it the same way. The core has awakened. The architect has returned. In the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere was electric with fear. "This can't be," shouted the Varn representative. "The core was destroyed eons ago." Chairwoman Arkson stood silently, her eyes fixed on the pulsing symbol above the central display. "No," she said softly. "It wasn't destroyed. It was hidden." "By whom?" asked one of the delegates. "By us," Arkson whispered. "By our ancestors. They sealed it on a young, primitive planet, Earth. We thought it would never be found." The entire chamber erupted in disbelief. "You mean you left the galaxy's most dangerous weapon on a planet full of evolving predators?" the Rix general growled. "You doomed us all." Arkson didn't reply. She knew they were right. The core wasn't a weapon in the usual sense. It was a machine built to decide who was worthy to survive cosmic extinction events. It could rewrite planetary ecosystems, alter gravity, even restart stars. And now, it had chosen humanity as its new master. Back on Earth, Arthur stumbled back as the object floated higher, glowing brighter than ever. The air around him vibrated, making his walls shake. "Stop," he shouted. "You're going to destroy everything." But the voice was calm. "Negative. Humanity's survival probability, 12%. Initiating augmentation." A beam of light shot out, passing through Arthur's chest like mist. He gasped but felt no pain, only clarity. Images flooded his mind, burning galaxies, dying worlds, collapsing civilizations. He saw alien races kneeling before the same object, trying to control it, failing. Then, silence. And a new image, Earth, shining like a beacon. "Why me?" Arthur whispered. "Why humans?" The voice replied, "Because humanity adapts. Because humanity endures. Because humanity never stops fighting." In the Pacific base, alarms blared again. Rena shouted orders as readings spiked off the charts. "Energy output rising. Whatever it's doing, it's feeding off the planet's magnetic field." The commander stared at the map. "Is it draining us?" "No," Rena said, eyes wide. "It's stabilizing it." Across the globe, strange phenomena began. Hurricanes slowed, earthquakes stopped mid-rumble, volcanoes went silent. For the first time in recorded history, the planet seemed to calm itself. "It's fixing the Earth," Rena whispered. "Whatever that thing is, it's protecting us." The commander didn't look relieved. "Protection never comes free," he muttered. In orbit, the alien fleets arrived. Thousands of ships surrounded the solar system, cautious but ready to strike. The Rix general sent the first transmission. "To the humans of Earth, surrender the core, or we will take it by force." The message echoed through space, reaching Earth's atmosphere. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, without warning, every human communication system, civilian and military, went silent. A single voice replaced them all. It wasn't human, but it spoke their language perfectly. "This world is under protection. Interference will result in extinction." The message didn't just play through speakers, it resonated directly inside the minds of every living being, across every species. The fleets froze. Even hardened warriors felt a chill in their bones. Admiral Kor's hands trembled. "It's speaking directly to us," he whispered. "No transmission lag, no distance delay." His science officer nodded, pale-faced. "It's using quantum resonance. That means it's everywhere." Arthur fell to his knees as the object landed softly before him, the glow fading slightly. His mind was still full of images, flashes of impossible power. "What happens now?" he asked weakly. The voice responded, "Preparation. The storm comes." "What storm?" "The old masters will not yield. They come for the core. They come for you." Arthur swallowed hard. Can I stop them? You cannot. But humanity can. In the council chamber, Chairwoman Arkson received the final report. The alien fleets were already engaging in orbit around Mars, trying to reach Earth. She looked at the chaos around her, the shouting, the panic, the fear. It's too late to stop them, she said quietly. The core has already made its choice. Back on Earth, the skies shimmered as the upper atmosphere lit up with lines of blue energy. The satellites that had reoriented themselves now linked into a single glowing ring around the planet. It was no longer defense. It was transformation. Arthur stepped outside, feeling the wind hum with electricity. Above him, streaks of light spread across the sky like veins of fire. Awakening protocol complete, the voice said softly in his head. Phase 2, Defense Initialization. Arthur's heart pounded. They're coming, aren't they? The voice paused before answering. They always do. And as the first alien ships breached Earth's orbital line, every human device on the planet came alive at once, glowing with the same blue light as the object. The invasion began at dawn. Across the world, people woke to the sight of burning trails slicing through the morning sky. To most, it looked like falling stars, but the defense networks knew better. Those weren't meteors. They were ships. Thousands of them, descending through the atmosphere with surgical precision. The Rix Empire had launched the first wave. Their capital destroyers broke formation, deploying smaller strike craft toward the Pacific and Atlantic regions, while planetary shields from orbit flickered faintly under the sudden energy surge. Earth's skies had never seen such a sight, an armada large enough to blot out the sun. But before the first ship could reach the lower atmosphere, the planet responded. A deep, resonant hum rolled across continents, so low it shook windows and made birds fall silent. Clouds twisted into perfect spirals above major cities, and from the heart of those spirals, beams of pure blue light erupted upward, piercing the sky. In the Pacific base, Major Rena Alvarez watched the readings in disbelief. It's not us, she said. We're not firing those beams. The commander stood beside her, his voice low. Then who is? Earth, Rena whispered. The holographic map showed hundreds of energy spikes aligning perfectly with known tectonic lines. The planet itself was generating the beams, controlled by the same signal that had spread from Arthur's house. Every city is connected, she said. Every power grid, every communication tower, every system we've ever built, it's all been linked together. The commander clenched his fists. And now it's fighting back. High above the atmosphere, the Rix fleet met the unexpected. Their shields flickered as invisible waves struck them, disrupting energy cores and navigation systems. We're losing control, shouted one pilot. Weapons unresponsive. The Rix general barked orders to fire blind, to scorch the planet from orbit if needed, but his command ship's main cannon melted before it could discharge. The beam didn't destroy, it rewrote. Every alloy, every system touched by the strange blue energy shifted molecularly, turning solid metal into glass. Within minutes, dozens of Rix ships were frozen mid-descent, drifting helplessly like fossils in the sky. From below, humans saw them as glowing statues hanging in the clouds. Arthur Reeves stood in his backyard, staring up at the chaos. The object pulsed in his hands, its glow brighter than ever. They're dying up there, he said, his voice trembling. Can't you stop it? The voice inside his head was steady. They fired first. The defense matrix operates on response logic. It cannot differentiate between threat and surrender. You're killing millions. Arthur shouted. Correction, the voice replied. The core is preserving billions. Arthur wanted to argue, but the sky flashed again, silencing him. A wave of light rolled over the horizon, and every ship in low orbit disintegrated into dust. No explosions, no wreckage, just silence. Across the galaxy, the council watched the live feeds in horror. They've unleashed it, one ambassador shouted. It's cleansing the orbit. Chairwoman Arkson's face was pale. No, she said softly. It's protecting itself. We tried to control a force that doesn't obey control. Reports flooded in from the Rick's command network. Half their invasion fleet gone, their communications blacked out, and their surviving ships retreating in panic. The weapon, no, the core, was rewriting the rules of war. But not all fleets ran. The Ithari Collective, known for their adaptive technology, activated their cloaked dreadnoughts. Unlike the Ricks, they didn't attack directly. They began probing the planet's atmosphere with energy disruptors, hoping to map the core's frequency. Inside one of those ships, a Ithari scientist whispered to his commander, "If we can match its resonance, we can disable it. And if we fail? Then none of us will live long enough to care." Their ship descended into low orbit, unseen, scanning Earth's magnetic poles. But as soon as their systems locked onto the core's signal, the ship's engines froze. Lights dimmed. The commander tried to move, but his body wouldn't respond. The ship's AI spoke, but its voice had changed. It wasn't Ithari anymore. "Unauthorized access detected," it said. "Termination sequence initiated." The crew screamed as their ship folded in on itself, collapsing silently into nothingness. Arthur fell to his knees, gripping the grass. His head throbbed with a sudden flood of visions, flashes of alien cities burning, fleets scattering, the core expanding its reach. He gasped for breath. "Stop. Please, stop." "You command the core," the voice replied. "But your hesitation weakens the defense. Choose, fight or fall." "I don't want to choose," Arthur shouted. "I just want this to end." For the first time, the voice hesitated. "Then humanity must decide. Unity or extinction." The object pulsed once, and the hum faded. Around the world, the blue lights dimmed, the beams receded, and the sky cleared. For a moment, there was peace. But it wouldn't last. In the Pacific base, Rena and her commander stared at the monitors. "The energy field's collapsing," she said. "Whatever was controlling it stopped." The commander nodded. "Then we've got a human in the loop." He turned to his officers. "Find him." Within minutes, a squadron of stealth drones launched, heading toward Aurora Hills. They had one goal: reach the source before the aliens did. Meanwhile, deep in space, Admiral Kor's surviving fleet hovered on the edge of the solar system. His second-in-command approached cautiously. "Sir, the Council ordered all ships to retreat." Kor didn't move. "Retreat," he said softly. "To where?" "That thing is awake. It's rewriting space itself. There's no hiding from it." "Then what do we do?" the officer asked. Kor turned toward the glowing blue sphere that was now Earth. "We pray the humans don't learn how to use it fully." On Earth, Arthur sat in silence, staring at the object. "You said humanity must decide," he said quietly. "Decide what?" "Purpose," the voice replied. "The core was forged to preserve creation, not dominate it. But preservation requires judgment. You have been chosen as the vessel of choice." "Me?" Arthur scoffed. "I'm nobody." "That is why you were chosen," it said. "Only those who seek no power can wield it without corruption." Rena's team reached Aurora Hills just after sunset. As they approached Arthur's house, their sensors went wild. Radiation levels spiked, gravity fluctuated, and every drone camera went static. Then, out of the quiet night, Arthur stepped outside, holding the object. "Don't come closer," he warned. "You'll trigger it." Rena raised her hands. "We're here to help you. We're not your enemies." Arthur shook his head. "No one can help now. They're coming again." Rena frowned. "Who?" Arthur looked up. The stars were moving, hundreds of glowing streaks cutting through the darkness. "All of them," he said. "Every empire, every fleet. They're coming for Earth." High above, the night sky rippled as alien ships blinked into existence, more than anyone had ever seen. The second wave had arrived. Arthur turned back to Rena. "Tell your people to stand down," he said. "This isn't our fight anymore." The object pulsed brighter, and the voice spoke again, louder this time, resonating through the air. Phase 3 initialized. Planetary awakening in progress. Rena stepped back, her eyes wide. What does that mean? Arthur swallowed hard, feeling the vibration in his bones. It means, he said, his voice trembling. The truth beneath the doorway. The galactic fleet hung in silence above Earth. Billions of eyes across the stars watched through live transmissions as the weapon of extinction, the object countless species had feared for centuries, was finally located. And yet, what they saw on their screens left them speechless. The weapon wasn't inside a heavily guarded vault. It wasn't on a military base or hidden in some forgotten ruin. It was sitting in a quiet human home, propping open a door. A door. Commander Threx of the Kalar Dominion refused to believe it. He stared at the hologram, his claws tapping the control table. No, he whispered. That cannot be it. But the scanners didn't lie. The readings matched perfectly. That small metallic cube wedged under the door was indeed the galaxy's most feared device, the weapon of extinction. It had the power to erase entire civilizations, rewrite matter, and consume stars. And a human was using it as a doorstop. On Earth, the human who owned it, a retired engineer named Morgan Hale, sat on his couch, sipping coffee, unaware of the chaos he had caused across the galaxy. His cat brushed past the door, knocking the cube slightly out of place. Morgan frowned, got up, and kicked it back under the door. The motion sent a faint pulse across the universe. Thousands of alien sensors screamed to life. Entire fleets braced for what they thought was the end. To them, it was as if the weapon had been reactivated. But to Morgan, it was just a normal day. On board the galactic flagship, panic broke out. "It's powering up," shouted one technician. "We're detecting quantum destabilization." Another officer turned to Threx, trembling. "Commander, what do we do?" Threx could hardly breathe. "Stand down," he ordered weakly. "Do not engage. If the weapon reacts to energy signatures, firing could mean our destruction." Across the stars, other civilizations made the same decision. They froze, terrified, unable to do anything but watch the humans. Inside Morgan's house, his old television flickered for a moment. He frowned, tapped it, and shrugged. Unknown to him, the small pulse had reshaped energy across hundreds of light years. A dying star reignited. A shattered planet began to reform. The so-called weapon of extinction didn't destroy, it repaired. Its true function wasn't annihilation, but balance. It consumed chaos and returned order. Morgan had no idea. He had found it years ago during a deep space salvage operation, thought it looked cool, and brought it home as a souvenir. The galaxy, however, had built myths around it, legends that painted it as a destroyer. Now, watching the human treat it like a simple object shattered those legends. Some species felt anger. Others felt awe. But one thing united them all: fear. Threx slowly leaned back in his chair. "They don't even understand what they have," he said quietly. "They have something beyond us all, and they're not even trying to use it." A nearby officer spoke in disbelief. "Commander, should we report this to the Council?" Threx gave a small, bitter laugh. "What could they possibly do? The weapon belongs to them now. And maybe it always did." On Earth, the night sky shimmered oddly. Morgan stepped outside, holding his mug, unaware that thousands of ships were watching him from orbit. He looked up at the stars and smiled. "Strange weather tonight," he muttered. As he turned back inside, the cube glowed faintly, as if responding to his presence. Across the galaxy, readings stabilized. Every alarm went silent. The universe held its breath. Then something unexpected happened. A signal emerged from the cube, a calm, steady transmission. It spoke in every known language, saying the same thing: humanity safeguards the balance. Interference will not be tolerated. The message repeated once, then stopped. No one dared move. No one dared speak. The stars seemed to dim, as if even light itself understood the warning. Commander Threx bowed his head. "It's not just their weapon," he said softly. "It's their responsibility now." One by one, the fleets began to withdraw. Across countless worlds, leaders ordered silence. No one would ever speak of what they saw. Humanity was left alone, untouched, unchallenged. In the weeks that followed, transmissions between empires mentioned a single phrase in hushed tones: the keepers of balance. And so, the myth of the weapon of extinction ended not in fire, but in quiet reverence. The humans never knew how close the universe had come to bowing before them. For Morgan, life returned to normal. He replaced his old door hinge, brewed another cup of coffee, and went back to watching the rain. In the corner of the room, the cube glowed softly, like a heartbeat, steady, calm, alive. And somewhere far beyond human understanding, the universe itself whispered, "Let them keep it." Because in the hands of humanity, even extinction had found peace.